Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about pharynx in head and neck series. Pharynx is a rostral part of gastrointestinal system which is involved in swallowing and mechanism of speech. I am Dr. Neeta Mahajan from Department of Anatomy, Maulana Azad Medical College. We are going to cover this topic under following headings. The learning objective for the topic are describe location, structure and function of pharynx. Also to describe composition of pharyngeal wall, attachments, nerve supply and actions of pharyngeal constrictors and longitudinal muscles. Parts of the pharynx and details of the interior of each part. Nerve supply, blood supply of pharynx and related applied aspect. Pharynx is a rostral part of the GI system. It's a muscular membranous tube which is extending from the base of the skull. See in this picture, this is the base of the skull. From base of the skull to esophagus. So this is the vertical extent of the pharynx, which is approximately 14 to around 12 to 14 centimeter. And this longitudinal channel is common for food and air. It has three components, the nasopharynx, the oropharynx and the laryngopharynx. So anteriorly, the pharyngeal wall is incomplete and communicating with the nose, nasal cavity, the oral cavity and the laryngeal cavity. So it's not a complete tube. It is open anteriorly, like if I had to make a cone-like structure like this. So it is somewhat like this, deficient anteriorly. So this is the structure. Here in the uppermost part, it is going to communicate with the nose, then with the oral cavity, and then with the larynx. So it's an incomplete, deficient anteriorly, communicating with the nose, oral cavity and the larynx. In the nasopharynx, this area, the nasopharyngeal area, is actually mainly respiratory in function. It is meant for conducting the air into the respiratory tract. The oral cavity is actually common for both air and food passage, whereas laryngopharynx is exclusively meant for the passage of food. This is the limit of nasopharynx from the posterior nasal aperture. This would be the posterior nasal aperture to the pharyngeal isthmus, which is actually the extending from the soft palate, and there is a pharyngeal sphincter. So this is limiting the nasopharynx. So this is the extent of the nasopharynx. Then from this palatoglossal fold to the up to the upper border of the epiglottis, this is the oropharynx, the light green area. So this will include the area behind or posterior to the palatoglossal fold. The dorsum of the tongue will also be included in this, which is making the anterior limit, and up to the upper edge of the epiglottis. And beyond this, up to the esophagus, the cricoesophageal junction, that is the laryngopharynx. What are the relations of pharynx? As I have mentioned, length of the pharynx is 12 to 14 centimeter and width is variable. To understand the relations, let's draw sagittal section of head and neck. For that, if this is the nose, the upper lip, lower lip, chin, the neck region, the anterior cranial fossa, then the part of the sphenoid and the occipital bone, the clivus part, the sella turcica, and then further the floor of the cranial cavity. I can draw the hard palate here, soft palate, the concave. So this would be the posterior nasal aperture, the cut section of the mandible. So I can make tongue like this in this region. Then the epiglottis. I will stop here and then we'll draw it on this side. This would be the cut section of the arch of atlas or the first cervical vertebra, which articulates here with the odontoid process. So here would be the, again I'm jumping, but this is the cut section of the hyoid bone. So I need this. Here would be the third cervical vertebra. So this would be the second, the odontoid process with the body, and this would be the intervertebral disc, and the third cervical vertebra here, the intervertebral disc, the fourth cervical vertebra, fifth one here, and the sixth one here. Okay, so in between the two vertebra we have the intervertebral disc. So let's label it the C1, C2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay, on the anterior aspect of the neck, here this fold is going to be reaching up to the arytenoid cartilage. Okay, then here would be the posterior lamina of cricoid cartilage, which is broad lamina on the posterior aspect and smaller lamina on the anterior aspect. So rest of the here would be the, this would be the thyroid cartilage. Okay, so let's see the vertebral level of various bony landmarks. The hard palate, it corresponds with the first cervical vertebra, so this will be the level of hard palate. Then the hyoid bone and the base of the mandible, this is the base part, the lower border of the mandible, this corresponds with the third cervical vertebra, the hyoid bone and the base of the mandible, and the upper border of the thyroid cartilage corresponds with the junction of third cervical and fourth cervical vertebra. Okay, remember this. And the lower border of the cricoid corresponds with the lower border of the sixth cervical vertebra. So these are the important landmarks: hard palate with the first cervical, base of the mandible and the hyoid bone with the third cervical, upper border of the thyroid cartilage with the junction of the third and fourth cervical vertebra, and the cricoid cartilage corresponds with the sixth cervical vertebra. So let us see now. This area is pharynx. This area is pharynx. This part is the nasopharynx. This is the oropharynx, and this part is the laryngopharynx. Okay, pharynx communicate anteriorly with the nose here, oral cavity and the larynx, and the lateral walls of these cavity, they are responsible for giving attachment to the muscles of the pharynx. So that are the anterior relation. Posteriorly, the pharynx is related to the upper six cervical vertebrae. So these are the upper six cervical vertebrae, they are related posteriorly. Then what are the other structures which are present between the wall of the pharynx and the posterior cervical vertebrae? So there are prevertebral muscles present along the anterior surface of these vertebrae. So they are called as prevertebral muscles. Further line anteriorly by the prevertebral fascia. So this would be the prevertebral fascia. Okay. Then we have the wall of the pharynx, which is covered on external side by the buccopharyngeal fascia. This dark line is the buccopharyngeal fascia. Then we have the layer of the pharyngeal muscle. The pharyngeal muscle. I'm making this layer of the pharyngeal muscle, which will be reaching up to here. Posteriorly, it is almost reaching up to the base of the skull. Okay, and anterior surface of the pharyngeal muscles is further covered by the pharyngobasilar fascia. Then we have a layer of the mucous membrane lining this like this, so, which is going to be covered like this. So from the this point to this point, this is the pharyngeal wall. This is pharyngeal wall. Okay, so the pharyngeal wall is related posteriorly with the upper six cervical vertebrae, prevertebral muscles, and the prevertebral fascia. So let me label it. This is the A, then this red structure is B, and this structure is C. Okay, so the A is the cervical vertebrae, then B is the muscles, this is B, and prevertebral fascia is C. Then about the lateral relations, it is mainly related with the blood vessels present in the carotid sheath, the internal jugular vein, common carotid artery and internal carotid artery, its continuation, and then the vagus nerve. And another structure which is related is styloid apparatus, which is actually the styloid process with its attachment. There are two ligaments and three muscles attached to the styloid process. Then together they are called as styloid apparatus. That will make lateral relation. To show you the lateral relation, let's see the next slide. For lateral relation, one should understand that this is posterior view. This is posterior view, and part of the pharynx which is left open, the cut from midline, and the wall is open like this. So what we can appreciate here, we did in the previous slide, that this is the opening of the nose, the oral cavity opening, and the larynx opening. So these are the three anterior communication of the pharynx, and these are going to be making the lateral wall and the posterior wall. So this wall is left open here, and this side we can understand the important bony landmark. This would be the mastoid process, है ना, यहाँ पे mastoid process हो जाएगा ये. This is actually the part of the sigmoid sinus. Further it is continuing as the internal jugular vein. This is the base of the brain. Here this edge is the posterior border of the ramus, angle of mandible, the base of the mandible. This bony projection which is seen is the edges of the ends of the greater cornu of hyoid bone. I'm sorry. This process here, this is styloid process with the muscles attached to it. So this would be the stylohyoid muscle which is reaching to the stylohyoid, and this is stylopharyngeus muscle. Remember this is stylopharyngeus muscle which is entering within the cavity of the pharynx between the gap of the superior constrictor and middle constrictor muscle. I can label this is superior constrictor muscle, and this is middle constrictor muscle, and this one is the stylopharyngeus muscle. Okay, so the styloid apparatus, these structures would be related laterally, as I have said here in the previous slide also. This is styloid apparatus. What we can appreciate here is the stylohyoid ligament and the stylopharyngeus and stylohyoid muscle here. So where is the carotid sheath? Let's see. Here is the internal jugular vein, which is actually the continuation from the internal jugular foramen here. This is internal jugular vein. Then next is the upper part is the internal carotid artery, lower part is common carotid artery, and the vagus nerve. Together this is the carotid sheath. This is carotid sheath here with the internal jugular vein, the common carotid artery and internal carotid artery in the upper part, and vagus nerve. So they are going to make lateral relations. So I hope it is clear to you the anterior, posterior and lateral relations of the pharynx. Let's see what is the composition of pharyngeal wall. For that, if we start from the posterior most part, let me draw again the vertebral cervical part of the vertebral column for you. Okay. Uh, After this, I will make. So this is first cervical, second cervical, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. So, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so we want only up to this. So as I have said, there are prevertebral muscles here present in this area. Then prevertebral fascia is there. Then what we have? If we start from outside in, so the lowermost, this will be the lowermost. The lowermost in the table will be the outermost. So we have buccopharyngeal fascia. Let me use this color. This is buccopharyngeal fascia. Okay. Then we have the pharyngeal muscles. So we have the constrictor muscles like this. Right. So these are the constrictor muscles. You must be thinking why I have made overlapping, because they are placed or the lowermost muscle is overlapping the middle muscle is overlapping the uppermost muscle. Then we have again a layer of fascia which is called as pharyngobasilar fascia. This fascia is extending up to the base of skull. So somewhere here, sorry. So this previous picture you can find out that this is how it was placed. So this will be reaching up to the base of the skull. Right. Then we have a layer of submucosa in this area. Submucosa. This is little wrong here. Right. So the submucosa and then the layer of mucosa. So this would be the mucous membrane which is going to be covering this also. Okay. So these are the layers from here to here. They will make the wall of the pharynx. So starting from inside out, the mucous membrane, this would be the layer 1, the mucous membrane. Then we have layer 2, the submucosa. Then 3, the pharyngobasilar fascia. Okay. Then we have layer 4, the muscles, and the layer 5, buccopharyngeal fascia. Then let's talk about the muscles of the pharynx. Pharynx is made up of 3 constrictor muscles and 3 longitudinal muscles. The constrictor muscles are the almost circular muscles lying making outer layer of the muscles, and longitudinal muscles, they are supplementing and present inside the constrictor muscles. So let's see one by one. Superior constrictor muscle. This is the, again, posterior view. So posterior view. So what we are seeing over here, this is the posterior midline over here, and extending laterally and get attached on the side walls of the nose and the oral cavity. So this muscle is up to this here. It is the lower part of the superior constrictor is overlapped by the middle constrictor muscle. So if I have to just mark the part of this superior constrictor which is seen over here, so this is the superior constrictor muscle. Okay, then we have middle constrictor muscle. I'm using blue color for that. This is the upper margin of the middle constrictor muscle, mainly arising from the hyoid bone, and most of its middle constrictor muscle is overlapped by the inferior constrictor muscle. This is inferior constrictor muscle. Okay, so it can reach the fibers of the inferior constrictor muscle can reach up to the base of the skull also. So it has two components, the part which is coming from the thyroid and part which is coming from the cricoid. Okay, so this is the inferior constrictor muscle. Let me use inferior constrictor muscle. This one is the middle constrictor muscle, and this is the superior constrictor muscle. Fine. So, and on this side we can appreciate the longitudinal muscles. Middle constrictor, inferior. Now this one is the stylopharyngeus muscle. This is styloid process. From the base of the styloid process, medially we have attachment of the stylopharyngeus muscle. This muscle enters within the wall. Initially it lies laterally, then it enters within the wall of the pharynx between the superior constrictor muscle and the middle constrictor muscle. We can appreciate its entry over here, and then we can see that this is the part after entry, it lies in the internal aspect of the constrictor muscle. So this is stylopharyngeus muscle. Okay, then we have salpingopharyngeus muscle. This is tube, the auditory tube or pharyngotympanic tube. So from the wall of the lateral wall of the pharyngotympanic tube, there is a attachment of the salpingopharyngeus muscle. So this muscle is almost then merged with the palatopharyngeus muscle. This is palatopharyngeus muscle. This will be the superior aspect of the soft palate. This is palatopharyngeus muscle. Again, all these longitudinal pharyngeal muscles, stylo, salpingo and palatopharyngeal muscles, they ultimately get attached to the posterior lamina of the thyroid cartilage. See, appreciate this over here. This is posterior lamina, and then this muscle, especially the stylopharyngeus muscle here. This muscle covered with the mucous membrane forms the pharyngoepiglottic fold. Pharyngoepiglottic fold. Remember this. So these are the muscles of the pharynx. We'll take details of each muscle one by one. To understand the constrictors of pharynx, I'll draw a diagram in which I'll make maxilla first. This is the part of the maxilla, the nasal notch, and then this is the alveolar process. Okay, so naturally the alveolar process bears teeth. So this is alveolar process, and here is the pterygomaxillary fissure. So this is the pterygoid process. So this would be the lateral pterygoid plate, and here is the medial pterygoid plate with the hemulus, pterygoid hemulus. This is the mastoid process. This will be the orbital socket over here, and from orbital socket, this I think we can understand over here. Somewhere here is the pharyngeal tubercle, and this somewhere this area would be having the styloid process. I'm just making bony landmarks. This is mastoid process, styloid process, the medial pterygoid plate and the lateral pterygoid plate. This one is the lateral, this one is the medial pterygoid plate. Now below this I can make the section of the mandible after removing the ramus. So again, this is also going to be a teeth so that we get orientation. So this is pterygoid humulus. I will draw one more structure over, the pterygomandibular raphe. The previous classes you must have done this, pterygomandibular raphe. The raphe which is extending from the pterygoid humulus to the just posterior to the mylohyoid on the inner aspect of the mandible. Okay, so let's start. Okay, one more, few more bony landmarks. So here would be the hyoid bone with the lesser cornu and the greater cornu. hyoid bone हो गया, यहाँ पे नीचे हम बनाएंगे thyroid cartilage and the cricoid cartilage. Then we have the tracheal rings below this. Okay, so I think I have gone little teda. I'll just make it correct. Tracheal rings. Right, and this is the oblique line of the thyroid cartilage. So let's see first the superior constrictor muscle. So superior constrictor muscle, that is the first muscle which we are going to talk about. Let's see the attachments. So first attachment of the muscle, it begins from the posterior border of the medial pterygoid plate in the lowermost part. This is medial pterygoid plate, this is posterior border, so the lower portion, and the pterygoid humulus, and then pterygomandibular raphe gives attachment to the superior constrictor muscle. After this, on the deeper aspect, it gives muscle also takes origin from the mucous membrane of mouth and from the sides of the tongue. Okay, so the attachment is from the medial pterygoid plate, posterior border, lower portion, pterygoid humulus, pterygomandibular raphe, sides of the tongue, and the mucous membrane of mouth. So this is origin. Then the insertion is on the pharyngeal tubercle. So this muscle is extending like this. The fibers run upwards towards the basal part, and here is the pharyngeal tubercle. So from pharyngeal tubercle, then rest of the fibers of the muscle, they run laterally and posteriorly, and they just interdigitate with the fibers of the opposite side of the superior constrictor muscle. It's like this. So, and make midline raphe. So let me make this raphe with the green color. Okay, so this is midline raphe with the pharyngeal tubercle here. So insertion is on the pharyngeal tubercle and midline raphe. So this is superior constrictor muscle. Then middle constrictor muscle originates from the hyoid bone, from its lesser cornu, from the greater cornu, and the stylohyoid ligament. And the muscle, it overlaps the lower part of the superior constrictor muscle. Okay, remember this. It overlaps the superior part of the. So let's extend the midline raphe. So this also gain attachment on the midline raphe. Then we have the inferior constrictor muscle, which is arising from this oblique line, and it just overlaps the most of the part of the middle constrictor muscle. And so it takes origin from the oblique line of thyroid cartilage. There's a muscle attached between the two, filled up here, the cricothyroid muscle. So that fascia of that muscle also gives attachment to the and the cricoid cartilage itself. So there are horizontally running muscles here, oblique muscles. Okay, and the further it is attached to this over here. Okay, and after this is the beginning of the esophagus. So this is the esophagus. So the part of the inferior constrictor muscle, which is coming from the thyroid cartilage, is called as thyropharyngeus. Thyropharyngeus. Then the part which is coming from the cricoid cartilage is cricopharyngeus. Okay. Then this one is the middle constrictor muscle. This one is superior constrictor muscle. Fine. So remember, they are overlapping each other like a glass. Suppose this is a glass. So all of them are placed one inside the other like this. And gaining attachment on the sides of the nasal cavity, oral cavity, and the larynx in sequence from above downwards. So remember this. These are the overlapping muscle. So it is like this. Fine. So these are the attachments of the superior constrictor muscle and middle and inferior constrictor muscle. So I think this is all about the attachments. This is the table showing the attachment, origin and insertion of the pharyngeal constrictor, superior, middle and inferior muscle. So please go through it. I'm not repeating it again. So the attachments, nerve supply and action of the superior constrictor muscle in tabulated form. Longitudinal muscles of the pharynx are palatopharyngeus. This is the palatopharyngeus muscle. This muscle, palatopharyngeus. Salpingopharyngeus. Salpingo, that means meaning is tube. So it is coming from the wall of the auditory tube. So this is salpingopharyngeus. It is actually considered as the third head of the palatopharyngeus muscle. We talked about palatopharyngeus muscle when we did soft palate. So it has got two slits, anterior and posterior to the attachment of levator velli palatini. This is one, and this is the other one you can appreciate, and this is the levator velli palatini coming from the inferior and medial aspect of the tube. Okay, so these are the two heads, and the salpingopharyngeus is coming from above. It is considered as the third head of the palatopharyngeus muscle. And then we see over here the from styloid process, from the base of the styloid process, this is the stylopharyngeus muscle entering from the gap between the superior constrictor muscle and the middle constrictor muscle. So this muscle is the stylopharyngeus entering from the gap between the superior constrictor muscle and the middle constrictor muscle. So this gaps यहाँ से ये enter कर रही है, and then you can see this is the internal part of the muscle getting attached onto the posterior lamina of the thyroid cartilage. Fine. So all these three muscles together get attachment on the posterior lamina of the thyroid cartilage, and these muscles, when they contract, they lift the pharynx and the larynx up, and they help in mechanism of swallowing and speech production. Let's see the interior of the nasopharynx, oropharynx and the lesopharynx one by one. So again I will draw a diagram for this. Here again I need to draw this diagram only. The nose, you draw with me, you will be able to draw it in your exam also. So this is the hard palate, the soft palate. I'm not making the vertebrae, but I'll just make the pituitary fossa over here in the okay. So here I need to make this cut section of the mandible, the tongue, the epiglottis, the arytenoid cartilage, the cricoid cartilage. Here is the thyroid cartilage, and the like this. So this will be the limit. Beyond this is the esophagus. So here, if you see the nasopharynx in the interior, the extent of the nasopharynx is from the base of the skull, from the base of the skull to the pharyngeal isthmus. This is called as pharyngeal isthmus. I'll tell you the boundaries. ये रहा soft palate. Okay, so from the lower border of the soft palate till the posterior part of the pharynx. So ये area जो है, this is pharyngeal isthmus, and from the anterior limit is the posterior nasal opening. This would be the posterior nasal opening. ठीक है. So this is the nasopharynx. So what all features we can appreciate in this? Before that, let's see what are the lining epithelium. Here, remember this is nasopharynx. Here we have the opening of the auditory tube in this area. So this would be the almost triangular shaped auditory tube opening is there, and this is also covered with the mucous membrane. Then we have in this part we have lymphoid tissue under the mucus in the submucosal area, which is the part of the mucosa associated lymphatic nodules. So this is called as the pharyngeal tonsil. Okay. Then these features, they are covered by the mucous membrane. So up to this level, the level of the opening of the auditory tube, anterior to this the epithelium is nasal type, and beyond this it is the mucosa is stratified squamous epithelium. Remember this, stratified squamous epithelium. The rest of the whole pharynx is lined by the stratified squamous epithelium, whereas anterior to the auditory tube it is respiratory type, the ciliated columnar epithelium. And this area, actually the region of the tube can be the transitional area. So beyond this can be the pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. This is ciliated columnar epithelium, and then posterior to it stratified squamous epithelium. Now what is pharyngeal isthmus? Pharyngeal isthmus is anteriorly bounded by the soft palate. In the lateral wall, it is the part of the palatopharyngeus muscle. The palatopharyngeus muscle is extending from the superior aspect of the palate downwards. Okay, so इसका एक portion यहाँ पे भी दिखता है, अभी बताऊंगी मैं. So this is the palatopharyngeus muscle. So small portion of this muscle, it goes posteriorly, make a circular sling in the lateral wall of the pharynx, and when this palatopharyngeus contract like a sphincter, it closes the pharyngeal opening in this area. So it blocks the passage between the nasopharynx and the oropharynx. So this is called as pharyngeal isthmus, formed by the soft palate and the pharyngeal sphincter, which is the mucosa covering the mucosa overlying the palatopharyngeus muscle. So this is pharyngeal isthmus. Fine. I have already told you posterior nasal opening, also called as choana. Okay. Then the posterior wall and the roof, they are in continuity. It is almost concave. See, this is the posterior wall, है ना, ये posterior wall है और ये इसकी roof है. So they are in continuity and concave. ठीक है. What are the features we'll get? Here, the roof and the posterior wall. Roof is almost formed by the body of the sphenoid, inferior aspect of the body of sphenoid. Now we know that pituitary fossa, it is uh, uh, the fossa present within the body of the sphenoid. So this would be the inferior aspect. So sphenoid is over here, and then basilar part of the occipital bone. ये वाला area क्या हो जाएगा? Actually this area is clivus area. Over here is the cranial cavity, है ना? Cranial cavity है ये. I hope. ठीक है. So then part of the longus capitis, the muscle, the prevertebral muscle which will be present over here, यहाँ पे आ जाएगी. Okay, so all these with the mucous membrane covering will make the posterior wall and the roof. Fine. Then in the lateral wall, I have already told you, in both the side, this is just one side visible. We are looking at the right side. So this is the auditory tube with this opening over here. Then wait, this is the opening actually, sorry, this is the opening of the auditory tube, है ना? Auditory tube. So this is the wall of the auditory tube, which is the cartilage. So here the cartilaginous end of the auditory tube is projecting and is covered by the mucosa, and it raises an elevation which is called as torus tubarius. It is called as torus tubarius. And then on the under surface of the mucosa covering the tube, this torus tubarius, we may have the malt, that means the mucosa associated lymphatic tissue in the tubal area. So they are also called as tubal tonsils. So in the nasopharynx, what all we can get is the opening of the auditory tube. Then we have the tubal tonsils, and then we have the pharyngeal tonsil. We have one more recess, like, because this wall of the auditory tube covered with the mucous membrane, this is called as tubal torus. This wall is raised, and because of that the area just posterior to it will be depressed, है ना? तो यहाँ पे ऐसे थोड़ा सा डिप्रेशन सा होता है. This is called as the pharyngeal recess. So you will also get pharyngeal recess. Pharyngeal recess. Fine. So these are the features which you will get on the nasopharynx. Okay, I have left one more. The salpingopharyngeal fold. There is a salpingopharyngeal muscle. I have told you when we were talking about the longitudinal pharyngeal muscle. So this will be extending like this from the lower edge of the auditory tube, so covered with the mucous membrane. So this is called as salpingopharyngeal fold. Also remember, in this area here, the if you remove the mucosa in this area, this is the area around the concavity of the tube. This will be raised by the levator palatini muscle, which is getting attached on the superior surface. Okay. So similarly, there is a small mucosal fold over here also, which is called as the salpingopalatine fold. So on both the edges there is a salpingopalatine fold, salpingopharyngeal fold, and the under surface, the area just below the opening of the auditory tube is raised by the levator palatini muscle. Levator palatini muscle. Fine. So this is all about the interior of the nasopharynx. Remember this. We'll talk about adenoids or the pharyngeal tonsils separately with the tonsils. Okay. So again, I'm just revising. What you will have to see over here is the opening of the auditory tube, the pharyngeal tonsils, tubal tonsils, salpingopharyngeal fold, salpingopalatine fold, the area raised by the levator valli palatini muscle, and a depressed groove just behind the supromedial portion over here is by the pharyngeal recess. The interior of the oropharynx. Okay, I'll just explain in this. Here, this is the soft palate, hard palate. So oropharynx will be extending from the this pharyngeal isthmus to the upper border of the of epiglottis, and anteriorly it is up to the palatoglossal fold, and here the posterior most part of the tongue will make the anterior limit of the oropharynx. So here this is all the boundary of the oropharynx. In this area, what we can appreciate, anterior most limit is by the this muscle covered with the mucous membrane raising a fold called as the palatoglossal arch. Fine. Posterior third of the tongue. So this will be the anterior boundary. Then posterior third of the tongue is again the mucosa covering it. Under that we have lingual tonsils. Then there is an upper border of epiglottis making the line joining this will make the lower limit. Then median and lateral glossoepiglotic fold. This you must have done in the tongue also, and vallecula. So there is a fold of mucous membrane extending between the posterior part of the tongue and the epiglottis will make the median. Similarly, we have lateral, and the depressed area between the median and the lateral glossoepiglotic fold is called as vallecula. In the lateral wall, what we have is the tonsils. Okay, here this is the area which will be occupied by the tonsils. So this area will be occupied by the tonsils. This is the tonsil, the lymphoid tissue present between the palatoglossal arch and the palatopharyngeal arch. This here that is muscle is retracted, otherwise it is somewhere here. Okay, so this palatopharyngeal arch. So this area is actually called as the tonsillar fossa. So these are the features on the interior of the oropharynx. Let's see the features of the laryngopharynx. Here this is posterior view. Posterior view. What we can see, as I have told you, the whole of the pharynx is going to lie against the starting from the C1 vertebra to the C6 vertebra, but the pharynx corresponds with the approximately third cervical vertebra to the C3 to C6. When we cut open the posterior wall of the pharynx, what the features which we can visualize, we can appreciate this is the epiglottis. Okay, this would be the aryepiglottic fold, है ना? ये cavity है larynx की. So here is the arytenoid cartilage and this is the cricoid cartilage, है ना? आगे से cricoid cartilage से attachment लेके आ रही है ये inferior constrictor muscle. So this is cricoid cartilage. So this is in this part of the pharynx, the upper half is going to communicate with the laryngeal inlet, whereas in the lower half the anterior boundary is found by the arytenoid cartilage and the cricoid cartilage, the muscles and the mucosa covering them. Okay, so this will form the anterior body. So only this part of the pharynx has complete boundary, whereas rest of the part is going to communicate with the structures which are present anterior to it, the nasal cavity, oral cavity and the laryngeal inlet. Fine. Here this has the anterior boundary in the form of mucosa covering the arytenoid and the cricoid cartilage. Now here this is the extension, this is the lateral edge, lamina of the thyroid cartilage, and this one is the lateral edge. So remember over here, the anterior wall is present in the towards the midline, whereas laterally there is a deep recess, or the space which is present between this anterior wall and this lamina of the thyroid cartilage. So this depressed area, recess like area, is called as the piriform sinus or recess. Okay, so this area is called as the piriform sinus or recess. Fine. Then I'll talk about Killian's dehiscence. This is the small gap or the weaker part present between the thyropharyngeus muscle and thyropharyngeus muscle. This is thyropharyngeus muscle, and this one is crico. So the thyropharyngeus mostly have the oblique fibers like this, whereas cricopharyngeus has the circular fiber. So there is a small gap present between the oblique and the horizontal fibers of the inferior constrictor muscle. So that gap is called as the Killian's dehiscence. Dehiscence is weakness. Okay, and then pharyngeal diverticulum is the structure which can, from the weaker portion of the wall of the inferior constrictor muscle or the pharynx, the mucosa can bulge outward whenever there is increased pressure in the within the pharyngeal cavity. That is called as pharyngeal diverticulum. So let's see the details of the piriform fossa. If we see the extent of the piriform fossa, it is extending from the, this I have told you, this is called as pharyngoepiglottic fold to the esophagus. So this would be the vertical length from here to here. This would be the vertical length from pharyngoepiglottic fold. Remember, this is called as pharyngoepiglottic fold. Pharyngoepiglottic fold. So ये वर्टिकल एक्सटेंट हो गई. लैटरली इसकी क्या चीज़ है? थायराइड कार्टिलेज है, उसकी लमाइना है, एंड थायरोहाइड मेम्ब्रेन. ठीक है, ये इसके ऊपर जाओगे तो थायरोहाइड मेम्ब्रेन है, दैट फॉर्म्स द lateral boundary. There is a membrane extending. See here in this picture, I'll show you there. Yeah? This is the posterior view, the upper border of the thyroid cartilage, and this is the hyoid bone visible here. So ये membrane which is extending between the hyoid and the thyroid cartilage. So this will make the lateral boundary. Vertical extent I have told you. From here the pharyngoepiglottic fold to the esophagus. यहाँ पे कहीं आएगा. Lateral boundary is by the thyroid membrane and the lateral lamina of the thyroid cartilage. Okay. Medially it is bounded by the medial boundary. क्या होगी? ये वाली जो भी चीजें होंगी, ये चीजें, ये they will form the medial boundary, है ना. जब आप इसको close करोगे, imagine this would be the medial boundary, this would be the lateral boundary, and this is the area, deep area, the recess like area, which is called as piriform sinus. So medially it is bounded by the aryepiglottic fold. This is aryepiglottic fold. Epiglottis, arytenoid. The fold of this between, extending between these two, is the aryepiglottic fold. And the posterolateral surface of the arytenoid and cricoid cartilage. So remember, from here this is aryepiglottic fold and the posterior surface of the arytenoid and cricoid cartilage covered with the mucous membrane. What is the significance of knowing the piriform fossa? Remember, can you appreciate, ये इसमें एक नर्व बनाई हुई है, यहाँ पे कहीं से नर्व घुस रही है, इसमें एक आर्टरी भी आती है साथ में यहाँ पे. ठीक है, यहाँ पे. So the nerve, do you remember the thyroid membrane? You must have done that in the demonstration class. So the thyroid membrane is pierced by the superior laryngeal artery and the internal laryngeal nerve. Okay, so that nerve is going to supply the sensory supply to the whole of the interior of the larynx and the laryngopharynx also. So sensory supply is by the internal laryngeal nerve. The larynx is actually the part which is above the vocal cord is going to be supplied by the internal laryngeal nerve. Below has different nerve supply. I'll talk about that later. So remember this, the internal laryngeal nerve pierces the thyroid membrane and runs in the submucosa from lateral to medial side. So it will run in the submucosa to supply the part of the larynx and the laryngopharynx part. This is important because while doing endoscopy, the scope can get stuck in the piriform fossa. Also, foreign body may get impacted in this area, especially the fish bones, and while removal, it is possible that we can damage the internal laryngeal nerve. Okay, damage to the internal laryngeal nerve is possible while removing the foreign body which is impacted in the piriform fossa. This is a recess-like area, so this fossa was used for smuggling the precious stones and the drugs also. By surgery, it was inserted in this area, and that is why it is also called as smuggler's pouch. Also, the malignancy of this area, they may remain unnoticed for long time. Unless we get metastasis, we are not able to identify the malignancy present in this area, because it is very deeply hidden area. So that is one more disadvantage of the piriform fossa or recess. Okay, we talked about Killian's dehiscence. I told you there is a weakened area in the junction of the cricopharyngeus muscle and the thyropharyngeus muscle. So this is thyropharyngeus, cricopharyngeus. So weak, smaller area, because there is a change in the direction of fibers between these two parts. So thyropharyngeus has oblique fibers, cricopharyngeus has circular fibers. Okay, so there is a small triangular gap is there between the two. So mucosa covering that gap, when only the mucosa is covering the gap, that is called as Killian's dehiscence. But when this mucosa bulges out in the posterolateral part of the pharynx because of the increased pressure or incoordination of the contraction of muscle between the cricopharyngeus and the thyropharyngeus. So in that case, pressure within the pharynx rises and the mucosa may bulge into it outside, and sometimes this the diverticulum has a collection of old food, and that can lead to bad breath, which is also called as halitosis. So that is hypopharyngeal diverticulum. This can be surgically corrected. Now coming to the nerve supply of pharynx, the pharyngeal plexus. The plexus which is present just outside the wall of the pharynx, called as the pharyngeal plexus. It lies on the external surface of the pharynx, especially over the middle constrictor muscle. So the middle constrictor muscle, uske bahar nerve plexus hoga, and then you can say that is in the retropharyngeal space. So that is pharyngeal plexus. What are the nerves which are making the plexus? Because it is plexus, so must be made up of many nerves. So it is mainly contributed by the pharyngeal branch of the vagus, glossopharyngeal nerve, and a branch of the superior cervical ganglion. All the muscles of the pharynx are supplied by the pharyngeal branch of the vagus, except stylopharyngeus muscle, which is supplied by the ninth nerve, that is the glossopharyngeal nerve. So remember, all pharyngeal muscles are supplied by the pharyngeal branch of the vagus except stylopharyngeus, which is supplied by the glossopharyngeal nerve. Sensory supply, the nasopharyngeal part, because ये ऊपर जहाँ पे maxillary की supply होती है वो वाला area आ गया ना nose के पीछे का. So that is supplied by the pharyngeal branch of pterygopalatine ganglion. Rest of the pharynx is by the pharyngeal plexus. That means from the vagus and glossopharyngeal nerve. If we have to specify, then oropharyngeal area is mainly by the glossopharyngeal and laryngopharynx area is by the vagus nerve. Then what is gag reflex? It's a protective reflex whenever we touch the posterior wall of the pharynx or the tonsillar fossils. Then there is a reflex contraction of the pharyngeal wall muscle. Just to prevent choking, it's a and the nerves which are involved in it are the vagus nerve and the glossopharyngeal nerve. Glossopharyngeal makes the afferent component, vagus forms the efferent component of the gag reflex. Blood supply is by the ascending pharyngeal artery, ascending palatine artery, and the tonsillar artery, which is a branch of the facial. So ascending palatine and tonsillar, they are branches of the facial artery. Ascending pharyngeal is branch of the external carotid. Retropalatine and the pharyngeal branches from the maxillary, and the lingual artery, the branches from the lingual artery. The veins, again the plexus of vein present just posterior to the pharyngeal wall, called as the pharyngeal plexus of vein, which will drain directly into the internal jugular vein usually, but can drain into the pterygoid venous plexus also. So that's about the blood supply. Okay, so this is one important slide where the attachment of all the three muscles, the constrictor muscle is shown. Whenever I said that they are overlapping, but still there is some gap left between these muscles and between the base of the skull and the superior constrictor muscle. So there are many structures which will fill this gap, or the structures which will enter in pharynx. So I'll just talk about that. So here the gap which is there between the base of the skull and the upper border of the superior constrictor muscle, this is called as the foramen of Morgagni. Okay. This is actually internally it is covered by the pharyngobasilar fascia, and this gap is filled up by the tensor villi palatini, levator villi palatini, auditory tube. All these structures will fill up this gap, but there are structures which will enter through this gap into the pharynx, and these structures are the levator villi palatini muscle, which will enter into the pharyngeal cavity. Then ascending palatine artery, this is the ascending palatine artery to supply the pharynx, it will enter, and the auditory tube, it will also enter to open into the lateral wall of the nasopharynx. Okay. So eustachian tube. Fine. So from this first gap we have these structures entering in. Then between the superior constrictor muscle and the middle constrictor muscle, we have stylopharyngeus muscle. This is the stylopharyngeus muscle, and the ninth nerve, which is the glossopharyngeal nerve. They will enter into the pharynx through the gap between the superior and middle constrictor. And we have superior laryngeal nerve and superior laryngeal artery. Actually, the internal laryngeal nerve, which is branch of the superior laryngeal, and the superior laryngeal artery, they will pierce the thyroid membrane and enter into the inside of this. Okay. Then recurrent laryngeal nerve and the inferior laryngeal artery, they will enter from the gap or just between the lower end of the inferior constrictor muscle. So remember these structures which are passing through the gaps between the various constrictor muscles. So I think that is all about the pharynx. Thank you.